Welcome back everyone to the Audacious Money Witch channel, where we talk about the magic behind the stock market. What's up, fam? So you know how the whole market has a whole greedy vibe right now, but some industries are just down bad in extreme fear. We're talking about snacks and cannabis. Two of the most chill industries are getting absolutely bodied. But what if I told you this is exactly why it's time to go all in on both? We're talking about a potential comeback story fueled by politics, economics, and a major vibe shift. I'm going to break down why these two sectors are getting clapped, what the massive catalysts are, and which stocks you should be eyeing right now. Let's get it. The weed wars, why cannabis is down bad. Okay, first up, the cannabis industry. Well, it might seem like everyone is lighting up. The stocks have been struggling hard. The tea is, even cannabis shoppers are being super cautious with their wallets. I'm talking about Trulieve Cannabis, one of the biggest multi-state operators. Their CEO, Kim Rivers, just said that transactions are up, traffic is up, but people are spending less each visit. They're basically clipping coupons and looking for deals on their cannabis. In her words, customers really like the idea of going on a little bit of a treasure hunt. To find deals, it's giving budget strained. On the finance side, Trulieve actually posted some decent numbers. Their gross margin improved from 60% to 61%, but their revenue is expected to be down slightly in the current quarter. The company is in a decent spot with around $400 million in cash, but they also have over $470 million in long-term debt. This is why management's number one priority right now is debt reduction. They said they're in a strong position to pay down their debt, and they plan to retire half of their $365 million in private placement notes before the end of the year. This is a huge positive and a sign of good leadership. But here's where it gets juicy. The Trump catalyst, a political vibe shift. You know how we talk about catalysts? This one is a game changer. The Wall Street Journal just reported that President Trump is now considering rescheduling cannabis to a less dangerous drug category.
There's reporting that the administration is going to reclassify marijuana. Would that send mixed messages that if marijuana is okay, some drugs are okay, but we're trying to clean up crime? How do they go hand in hand?
We're only looking at that. That's early, but somebody reported it, which is fine. We're looking at it. Some people like it. Some people hate it. Some people hate the whole concept of marijuana because if it does bad for the children, it does bad for people that are older than children. But we're looking at reclassification, and we'll make a determination over the next few weeks. And that determination hopefully will be the right one. It's a very complicated subject, the subject of marijuana. I've heard great things having to do with medical, and I've had bad things having to do with just about everything else. But medical and for pain and various things, I've heard some pretty good things, but for other things, I've heard some pretty bad things.
What does this mean? It would ease federal restrictions and, most importantly, remove that brutal 280E tax. This would be a massive financial win for every cannabis company. The market immediately went wild. Shares of Green Thumb, Planet, and Trulieve all jumped 20% to 35% on the news. The market is literally just waiting for this to happen. We also have to remember the state-level fights. Last November, a referendum to legalize adult use cannabis in Florida was defeated because it needed 60% approval and only got 57%. But management and analysts are optimistic about modified referendum that could have a better chance of passing. But let's talk psychology for a second. Why would Trump even bring this up? He could have totally ignored this complicated topic if he wanted to, but he's not like Joe Biden. He likes to get things done, and he respects law and order. He doesn't like the illegal markets. This is the same reason he's pushing tariffs and fulfilling his campaign promises. This is why I think the decision has most likely already been made. It will just take time to actually make it happen. And that's why we are still so early. The big money, The institutional investors can't pour their billions into this space until the decision is final. We get to front run the smart money.
To be clear, I'm actually the portfolio manager of CNBS, which is an active cannabis ETF, and it's been a wild 6 years since we launched this fund, and it's certainly been one that's had a lot of promises or seemingly promises or Washington and macro that seemed like it was game on. What's happened in the industry over the last 2 weeks or so is there's been some sense that the industry, which has finally come together to lobby Washington, I think more appropriately, and you have a Trump administration that on the campaign trail was very clear that they were either in favor of cannabis, they certainly were in favor of removing a lot of the uncertainty around the sector and rescheduling from Schedule 1 to seemingly Schedule 3 is something that for people in the industry, but also for people outside of the industry, cannabis is kind of a bipartisan issue. This is hardly controversial. Proving cannabis as medicinally, efficacious and that it actually has a use is something that hasn't been that difficult. And under the Biden administration, the FDA put out a 208-page memo saying that, in fact, it did have medicinal use. So that's the dynamic here. Rescheduling from Schedule 1 to 3, so going from the same as LSD and heroin to something that actually does provide medical benefit is something that would change the tax structure of the industry and would be a game changer. If you think about where we are, the dynamic is that this is arguably, an $80 billion market right now. If you add up adult, medical, illicit, and there's no question to me where the top line is growing. There's no question that consumers who've been looking for exposure to this kind of growth, it's there. Does not mean that it won't be a complicated trade, but it does mean that you're investing now well ahead of a lot of institutional capital if you are, in fact, investing into this.
So while the fundamentals are a bit shaky right now, Trulieve reported a small loss, but their cash flow is solid. The potential for a political tailwind is absolutely massive. It's the biggest catalyst this industry has ever had. My pick here is the big OG. Trulieve, it's the market leaders and #1 in Florida, and she stands to gain the most from the federal reform.
Rescheduling is the government saying, okay, maybe this isn't the same as crack cocaine, and maybe doctors should be allowed to prescribe it without acting like they're handing out plutonium. And here's the kicker. We already have half the country allowed to use cannabis under the color of state law. States like Florida, California, Colorado, so many others, even red states, they've got dispensaries that look like Apple stores. You walk in and it's like a Genius bar for THC. People are paying taxes on it. Landlords are getting profitable tenants. Jobs are being created. And what's Uncle Sam doing? Pretending it's still a cartel product smuggled into the country in a hollowed out coconut? Rescheduling would mean more research, safer products, less of this mystery gummy from Chad's backpack situation. It would also mean banks can actually touch cannabis money without feeling like they're laundering cartel cash. Right now, these businesses are paying employees in envelopes of cash like they're extras in Goodfellas. And if President Trump does this, the game is over for Democrats at the ballot box. We could be the party that allows people to safely use marijuana without pretending it's for your glaucoma-ridden cat. It's populism meets practicality. Suddenly MAGA hats in line at the dispensary, patriots buying pre-rolls called 1776 Freedom Kush. Beautiful. Now, don't get me wrong, there are still people clutching their pearls saying buying marijuana is a gateway drug. Yeah, so is drinking Mountain Dew if you consume enough of it. In reality, marijuana is more like a gateway to eating 3 sleeves of Oreos and having deep thoughts about how ceiling fans work. If someone's moving onto the hard stuff, it's not because they started with weed, it's because our mental health system is a dumpster fire and fentanyl is cheaper than Tylenol in some places. If rescheduling means more doctors can explore medical uses without jumping through 12 hoops and 4 DEA inspections, then why wouldn't we do that? The only real argument against it is, well, we've always done it this way. And if we stuck to that logic, we'd still be using rotary phones and thinking that margarine is health food. So here's my pitch. President Trump, reschedule marijuana. Do it big, do it loud. Sign the order with a gold Sharpie, hold it up for the cameras, and say this plant was treated more unfairly than I was, and that's saying something. It's good politics, it's good economics, and it's about time the federal government stopped pretending that Snoop Dogg and El Chapo are in the same business. And if anyone is still clutching their pearls, hand them a CBD gummy and tell them to take a walk.
Snacks aren't snacking, the GLP-1 panic. Now let's talk about snacks. The snack industry is hitting a wall, and it's all about three things: inflation, new diets, and GLP-1 drugs. The price on salty and sweet snacks have soared way more than regular inflation, so consumers are like, yeah, I'll pass. Even the snack GOAT, PepsiCo, saw a revenue dip in its North American food division for 2 quarters straight. But the biggest threat right now is a little thing called Wegovy. GLP-1 weight loss drugs are suppressing people's cravings, especially for sweet snacks. The sales volume for cookies, cakes, and brownies is down double digits. It's giving snack apocalypse for the legacy players. But it's not all doom and gloom. Snacking isn't dead, the vibe is just changing. People are looking for functional foods with more protein and the clean label products with fewer ingredients. Here's the real tea. Are consumers too smart to smoke weed and eat snacks? The data says snacks have gone way too expensive. According to Nelson IQ, the price of salty snacks is up 30% over the last 5 years, and sweet snacks are up a whopping 40%. That's way higher than the 25% general inflation during the same period. So people are just skipping the snack aisle. Sweet snacks like donuts, cakes, and cookies are seeing unit sales fall by 10% to even 19%. Even potato chips, the biggest salty snack, saw a 7% dip in sales volume. But don't get it twisted, snacking isn't dead. A Mondelez survey found that 91% of people still nibble daily. The frequency of consumption is down, the market is just shifting. Who's winning the snack wars? So who's actually thriving in this new reality? Pepsi. The stock is my top pick. PepsiCo ranks as the alpha dog in the $242 billion global snacks market, controlling 23% of the market in 2024 through well-known brands such as Lay's, Cheetos, Doritos. Consistent brand investments have reinforced the image these snacks as affordable treats in today's fast-paced life, thus allowing the snack provider to fetch pricing gains above inflation while maintaining healthy volume growth. Campbell's, this one might surprise you, but the stock is down 22% this year, and that feels overdone. Their snacks are struggling, but their meals and beverage segment think their soups and that popular Rao's pasta sauce is growing strong. This is a classic value play. The final verdict, is it time to go all in? So there you have it. You've got the cannabis industry, which is getting clapped by policy, but could see this massive surge with a simple political shift. And then you've got the snack industry, which is getting shaken up by new health trends and inflation, creating a major shakeout and a buying opportunity in the brave new world. Both of these sectors are currently on sale. The price action is ugly, but the potential catalysts are huge. This isn't about chasing hot stocks. It's about finding good companies in two of the most hated industries that nobody is talking about. So are you getting in on the comeback? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more market tea. And hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. Peace out.